Hi Siri, I'm looking for a new podcast, one that preferably is hosted by a UF Hall of Famer, one that airs every weekday that would bring me everything I need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions. Siri, is there such a show?
Have you heard of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or any podcast platform?
Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? UF Hall of Famer Shane Matthews has a show every weekday. I'm going to go check it out tomorrow. Thanks, Siri.
Good morning. Welcome to a Wednesday edition, Hump Day, as they call it, of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got JC here momentarily, and then we'll have Mike Morgan from ESPN get his thoughts on the 14 playoff. I know a lot of people are upset that Alabama's ranked ahead of Tennessee. Get his thoughts. On the transfer portal. Be hot and heavy. I think it all officially starts on Monday, and the Gators will be very involved in the transfer portal. I do know that. If you missed it last night, just a lot of college basketball, NBA. But Tyree Appleby, former Gator, knocks down 32 points as they beat Wisconsin in Madison. So I saw the last couple minutes of that game. Boy, he was knocking down some shots. He's either very, very hot or very cold. So I think the Gators get back in action tonight against FAMU in the O'Connell Center. Should win that game. If you got any questions or comments, shoot them to us on the Titan MR text line or on Facebook Live. We're waiting on JC. He's running a little late today. I got to get his thoughts on a few things. I do have a text here on the Titan MR text line. Let's get to it. We got two of them. This one is from an anonymous text. Says Dion said that he has multiple offers, but Colorado is after him hot and heavy. South Florida will be a great landing spot for him. I agree. I think South Florida will be a good one. We'll see what happens with Dion. Georgia Tech, by the way, took the interim tag off their head coach, and he will be now their full-time coach. This from Daryl says, good morning, guys. Shane, how many players from the Gators football program do you think goes into the portal? Well, I don't have the exact count as of today, but I think we've already had 5 or 6 leave the program, head into the transfer portal. I think you'll see several more, and I think the Gators will go after a lot of folks in the portal. I saw this tweet. I screenshot it because I thought it was great. Tell me what you folks think about this. It's just a random guy on Twitter. Somehow it popped up on my feed, but he was stating, my school's transfer portal entrants are good-hearted dudes who love their school but just want to get on the field. The rival school's transfer portal entrants are a sign that the coach has lost the locker room and the program is burning to the ground.
Oh,
I love that. I love it. Did you hear that, JC?
Yeah, I caught the burning to the ground.
All right, so everybody, if just listen to this tweet. This gentleman said, my school's transfer portal entrants are good-hearted dudes that love their school but just want to get on the field more. The rival school's transfer portal entrants are a sign that the coach has lost the locker room and the program is burning to the ground. It's so true, though. Think about it. Anytime a kid in the portal, even if you being an Alabama grad, you're like, what the hell's he doing? Well, he probably wants to go play somewhere.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that Nick Saban's lost control of the locker room.
No.
It just happens. But anyway, good morning, JC. You're on the Titan Hotline.
Yeah, did I miss somebody else just decide to pick up and leave Gainesville? Is that what happened?
No. Daryl asked me, we're going to have Monday's officially the day that you can put your name in the portal.
Okay.
All hell's going to break loose on Monday. I'm telling you right now.
Right. Turnover.
And I'm telling you right now, the Gators are going to make a pitch. Or it's crazy now, because think about this. I was thinking about this the other day. If you're a stud outside linebacker, offensive lineman, whatever, and you're a really good player at whatever school, you go into the portal. If you're a really good player, you know for a fact that Georgia, maybe not Georgia because they didn't sign anybody, but Alabama, Ohio State, the same old folks every year, the top recruiting classes.
Yeah.
They're going to have an opportunity to sign that guy. It's going to come down to who's going to pay me the most money and will I be a starter. But if you're that good of a player, you're probably going to be a starter. I think it's different for the quarterback, though, JC. Think about that. Quarterbacks want to win, but there's some that are at lesser schools right now that are really good players that they can go to a big-time program that's had a lot of success in the past and then turn that program around immediately. So I think it's interesting. The quarterback deal is going to be fascinating in the portal. It's going to be fascinating.
It is, and one school just sticks out like a sore thumb to me. It's not a sore thumb, but I got some rumor yesterday. I'm not a rumor monger. I don't spread them, but I'll just tell you what some guy texted me yesterday, and that was Drake May's going to go to Alabama. And
who?
Drake May. And
he's got a lot. Look, there's word about Drake May coming here. There's word about Drake May going to Ohio State.
Well, that's what it's starting to become now. It's going to be like who has the hot hand and who's going to get him, and is he going to stay at the school that he initially got that hot hand? You know, he plays for North Carolina, and why wouldn't he stay at North Carolina? And so I don't
because he could go to Alabama or Ohio State and have a chance to win it all and get paid a ton of money.
That's what it's going to come down to, and I just don't know.
Drake May. My sources tell me Drake May is going to have so much money thrown at him. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy when you think about it.
It is, and I think the only way this is going to work its way out, QB, is if we expand the postseason to more teams to have a chance to win a championship.
Yeah, I agree with that. Michael asked here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. I think I know what he's asking. So, Shane, how will the SEC break down from East-West divisions in football? I think you're asking once OU and Texas enter the league, there will be no divisions. It's just going to be the top two teams. Everybody, you're going to have your schedule. Top two teams with the best record, like some of the other conferences around the country now, will play in Atlanta. So if that was the case this year, you would have had Georgia playing Tennessee in Atlanta.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Is that better than Georgia and LSU playing? I mean, it might be, might not be. I do know this.
Tennessee, in my opinion, is a better team. Tennessee's a better team than LSU.
Well, I mean, they only won by 27 in Baton Rouge, something like that. So
sure. Well, they're the better team. Yeah. So anyway, I think the transfer portal stuff is going to be just. And I was thinking about this too.
It'll be mayhem.
Doesn't matter if you're a Gator fan or whatever school it is, you're going to get so upset when you see School X sign a player that you think should be coming to play for you. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy.
I have some advice for all our great listeners and viewers, QB, on the podcast this morning. If you take a trip like I do, 10 days, 8 days, 12, whatever, you come back and you're sick and you're coughing and you feel like you got the chills and you're running nose, whatever, the first thing you should do is get up and go play tennis and sweat and be active and run around and don't lay around the house, because that's what I did yesterday. And I feel so much better than I did yesterday because I forced myself to get off my ass and go play tennis. And it's amazing. It's amazing. I played for 3 hours last night, QB, and I felt it's incredible. You don't need to pump all this crap in you. You don't need to take 30 pills. Just go out and run around. It's unbelievable. It's probably what they did back in the day before pharmacies were invented. You know, just go outside.
Health tips from JC.
Well, listen, I'm sick. Okay, I've got a cold.
Do you have COVID, JC?
Have you been tested? That's another problem. Is the first thing people assume is that you've got COVIDia or COVID or whatever when you got a cold or you're sick. And no, I don't think I have COVID. I don't even care. Maybe I do. But I played tennis last night for 3 hours. I played really good tennis. By the way, QB, Tulane is on the cusp of the biggest one-year turnaround in FBS history. 8 games better than last season, and the last team to do something that good was Hawaii in 1999 when they were 8.5 games better. Well, I don't know how you get 8.5 games better, but the point is that things can change quickly, and we've made this point before. And this can happen here just as easily as it happened at Tulane.
Yeah, and Willie Fritz, their head coach, turned down the Georgia Tech job.
Good for him. Good for him.
And he says, I hope JC's health tips are better than his football picks.
Oh, Andy, come on, bro. What was I? I'm like 9-10 games above 500.
Yeah, you're 80 and 70.
Yeah.
Okay, so Greg asked a question. Greg asked a question here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melvin Law. Should you factor in a team's ranking when the starting QB is out for the season? Talking about Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I get it because, when they do the March Madness and all that stuff, if guys are hurt, they take that into consideration, whether they should get in the tournament or not.
Yeah.
I mean, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I guess it does because it's going to matter what bowl game they go to.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because they're not getting into the playoff. I don't think any of the teams get upset this week. I think the 4 that are in there are going to win. I think K-State is going to keep it close. It'll be very close. Chris says 80 and 70 will get you fired. Not in that profession, it won't.
Well, I'll say this, Chris. I get what you're saying, but this has been a tough year. And if you compare it to all of the other so-called great handicappers, and I've looked at other people's records, that everybody's hovering around or below 500.
But anytime you're over 500 in that business, it's a good year.
I think it allows you to continue to do it. That's for sure. Speaking of quarterbacks, QB Caleb Williams now has 34 passing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns, and has become the second player in Pac-12 history with 30 touchdowns in the air and 10 on the ground in one season. Name the other guy who did that. I mean, you have to think about it. It goes back. It can go back as far as 10 years. But it's obvious, but you may not think of him. But again, a guy who can run and throw, and Caleb's the first.
That would be Marcus Mariota.
Very good. Dang gum, that's sharp, QB. You're really sharp at 8:12 in the morning.
I know. I don't mess around. That's why I have a program, JC.
Hey, he won the Heisman. He won.
Yes, he did win the Heisman. He did win the Heisman. Here's a great tweet. I love, like I told you, I get on Twitter and then I just like to read stuff. This dude texts this. This is great. Auburn hired a former Arkansas State coach. They fired him. They replaced him with a former Arkansas State coach. Mm-hmm. They fired him and then replaced him with a former Arkansas State coach. Think about that.
What a pipeline. That is an unbelievable stat.
The last 3 coaches for the Auburn Tigers were also head coaches at Arkansas State.
I didn't know. Well, that is amazing. And I had no idea Harsin was that guy. But I tell you, I really want to say that those folks criticizing Auburn or Hugh Freeze for the past have to put that behind them. And I think Auburn did a good thing and made a good decision. I'm not ready to bury guys because of things that happened years and years and years ago. I think he's shown that he can coach this game, and he was just waiting for his chance, and time took its own course. And so I thought it was a good hire. I thought it was the right hire. And I think Auburn's going to be fine. But I also think that, there's no room for error here. He's got to mind his P's and Q's. And obviously people say this about him because of what he did. But you can't crucify the guy forever. And I think it was the right hire. And we talked about this. We knew it was going to be him or Lane, and it was Tim. So.
Yep. Are you in the market to buy or sell your home? Darling, we be a realtor with Caldwell Banker M. Parrish. We'll provide you with fast, friendly, reliable service. Call her today at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. Speaking with JC, we'll have Mike Morgan from ESPN, second part of today's program. JC, anything surprise you from the rankings?
No, the only question was going to be whether Ohio State was 5 or 6 and Alabama was 5 or 6, and they went with Ohio State. That means that a 22-point loss at home is better in their mind. With 2 good wins, I think it shows that they were valuing wins, and so they gave Ohio State the benefit of the doubt for beating Notre Dame and beating Penn State over Alabama. Alabama had 2 losses, one more than Ohio State, and the only reason that matters to me is in the event USC loses. If USC loses, Ohio State will probably slip in, and USC will slip out. You can't put Southern Cal in the playoff if they lose to the same team twice in a year and not win their conference. I mean, let's face it. What has Southern Cal done that Ohio State hasn't done? They would have just beaten Notre Dame. Same thing. Ohio State beat Notre Dame. And you can't lose to Utah twice and think you're going to go play for a national championship when you didn't even win the conference because you could not beat your conference champion, Utah. So if Southern Cal loses, Ohio State's going to slip in there, and Georgia's going to score 48 points on them. So, I mean, really, how are they going to stop Georgia? How?
No, I'm with you. I'm just hoping that it just. I don't want any upsets. Are fun to watch, but I don't want any upsets because I want to see these 4 teams play. I didn't see it. Who is number 3 right now?
Number 3 would be TCU.
Okay, so they would play Georgia.
TCU would? No, I think TCU would play Michigan.
Oh, 2 and 3 play. You're right.
Yeah.
I wanted them to rearrange that for my sake.
Well, that could happen, and I might be wrong. I thought I saw it the right way. But
no, you're right. You're right. I was thinking 1 and 3 played 2 and 4, but that ain't right. I want to see Georgia play TCU, and I want to see Michigan and SC play out in Arizona.
Well, for Michigan to play SC would have to be 3, and if they beat Utah, I guess they'll be 3. Although isn't TCU at 3 right now? So if TCU beats Kansas State, why would they fall? So they're going to stay at 3.
Because I think the committee. Look, it's all made for TV, right? It's all about.
Well, they don't want Ohio State and Michigan to play in the first round. I don't think.
I'm not saying Ohio State's not even in the picture here. I'm talking about they want to see Southern California play somebody in Arizona.
Yes.
In the first round.
Well, then they would have
Georgia Bulldogs are playing in Atlanta.
Yes.
So if USC wins, USC will jump to the 3rd spot. You watch.
Okay. Well, and that's totally reasonable. I totally would agree with that. And I mean that's what would make it more compatible to the fans, to everybody. But again, you're then telling TCU that you're going to move down a spot to go play in Georgia.
Yeah,
and that's your reward for going 13-0 and winning the Pac-12 and beating Kansas State twice. I don't know if that's right. That wouldn't be, I think, a very good thing to a message to send to TCU. But logistically speaking, I think you're exactly right. That's what I think makes more logical sense. Yeah.
JC, let's talk a little NFL.
Okay, I like it. I like
right now, and I'm going to have Frank Frangi's going to come on. What's today? Tomorrow. He'll talk Jaguars and he'll talk the NFL with us a little bit. But it's getting to that point of the year where we kind of know who's going to make the playoffs, who's not. The AFC is loaded, in my opinion.
Oh man, what a QB. The NFL's been, I think, more entertaining to watch this year than it has in recent memory, just because of the way some of these games have ended. And, that Jacksonville game on Sunday is the first time I've seen them pull off something like that with that roster and with Trevor Lawrence. First time I think I've ever seen them win a game with a late 2-minute drive and Trevor not throw an interception throughout the entire game against a pretty decent playoff type team. So good for Jacksonville. It really got the fans into it. The bad news for Jacksonville is what they've got coming up. They've got to travel to the West Coast. They've got to play Detroit in Detroit. That's not going to be easy. But then they have to play at Tennessee after that, and then the Cowboys come to town. So tough, 3 tough games, man. At Detroit, Tennessee on the road, Cowboys at home. But, hey, I mean, I don't think this team backs down from anything. I mean, Jacksonville has shown me that the 4 wins this year, they are much more competitive, and we both said that would happen. We think this coach knows what he's doing. He's a Super Bowl winner, and certainly I think when they continue to draft well, if they can continue to draft well, they'll be fine. The team that is exciting QB is Miami, but they're the team. Listen to this 3-game road stretch for Miami QB. This is going to be really season-defining. At San Francisco, okay? At San Francisco this weekend. At Buffalo, check that. At San Francisco this weekend. At the Chargers next weekend. And then at Buffalo the weekend after that. So 2 out of the next 3 weeks, the Dolphins are traveling to the West Coast. And in between that, they get to go play Buffalo. So that 3-game stretch there, these guys that I'm repping today, will have their work cut out for them, but everybody's talking about the Dolphins and their offense.
Are they your new favorite? Are they your new favorite team?
Well, look, I got to root for Tua, right? Everybody loves Tua, but and Jalen Waddle, but certainly, those 3 games. I mean, the schedule maker didn't do them any favors with that stretch of games at San Francisco, at the Chargers, at the Bills. God, I mean, that is not. That's not easy.
Yeah, Tua is just shattering records right now. He's had a phenomenal year.
And, he got his head cracked open twice this year, concussion city, and he came back to his credit. You and I, and especially me, were saying, man, I just don't think this guy ought to keep playing. I mean, we're thinking about his long-term health. And yet, they covered up a concussion against Buffalo the last time they played. He clearly had it, but they said it was a back injury, but it wasn't. And yet, there they are, contending for the division at home playoff game. Right now, they're the 2 seed in the AFC, QB, the 2. So the AFC, you're right. It's you line up all those 6 teams for the AFC, and you line up the 6 from the NFC. I think the AFC would have the nod right now. Kansas City, Buffalo.
The NFC's got like 3 teams that I think are worth a darn. It's the Eagles, and I'm not sure how good their defense is. But I love the 49ers roster.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a nightmare to play.
They are.
And then obviously the Cowboys are playing real good football.
Well, they are, but you also have to look at Minnesota with only 2 losses right now.
Yeah. Text on the Titan Mark text line. It's an anonymous text says it would just piss everyone off if USC and TCU lose and it's an SEC Big Ten Final Four.
Well, you think that – I was going to ask you about that, QB. I mean, you really think they would take TCU out of the equation going 12-1?
Yeah.
Put Ohio State in? You do?
I do.
Wow. So
they want that. They'll say the brand. It's all about the brand.
So you're going to look at – so what we're supposed to believe is that TCU and Southern Cal get beat. I certainly agree with Southern Cal. If they lose to Utah, there's 0 chance.
Well, what's the difference between Michigan having 1 loss? I mean, Ohio State having 1 loss to the team that's in the Final Four, and TCU losing to K-State, who has what, 3 or 4 losses?
No, I mean it's just an opinion at that point. You're talking about a team that lost by 3 touchdowns on their home field playing that team again. I mean, that's what you're talking about. Then you're talking about a team that. Alabama and Georgia have been playing each other, it seems like daily every year, and they're 2 separate divisions. They play each other all the time. Some guy was burying the SEC West saying the East is taking over, but the truth of the matter is the East has had 1 team.
And I think the East, if I'm not mistaken, I saw the East had a better record this year against the West.
Yeah, I think that's the first time
that happened. JC.
It's the first time that's happened in well over 10 years. But regardless, it's Georgia, and if Georgia were to play Alabama, Ohio State played Michigan, I think you'd have a lot of people throwing a fit. So,
out west, definitely. But the people out west don't give a damn anyway. They care less.
Southern Cal has 0 path if they can't beat Utah. There's just no way. You cannot put a team that can't beat Utah.
They'll beat Utah. They lost at Utah on the last play of the game, a 2-point conversion.
Well, Alabama lost 2 games on the last play of the game.
No, I realize that, but Alabama has 2 losses. SC only has 1. This texter on the Titan Mar text line says, tell JC he needs to get a retro Dolphins hat with the helmeted curved dolphin and throw that new logo away.
Okay. All right. That's thank you for that suggestion. The retro is great. In the old Orange Bowl, QB, it was so cool. The Dolphins had a swimming pool in the end zone. And the damn thing was swimming out in there, and Garo Yepremian would kick an extra point or a field goal, and we were always hoping the ball would go in the pool where the dolphin was swimming around. The Orange Bowl was classic, but it was in such a bad part of town. But that's where the Miami Hurricanes truly had a home field advantage. They did. And the Miami Dolphins were great in that stadium, Don Shula. So, it's kind of faceless right now. But that stadium down in Miami is a great place to watch a game. There's not a bad seat in the place. And they've redone it. Club level seats are fantastic. It's really a good place to watch a game. It's just kind of in the middle of literally nowhere, Miami Gardens. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, the Dolphins have been a great story. But man, reality could hit them hard this next 3 weeks. QB at San Francisco, at Chargers, at Buffalo.
Well, they'll stay out there. They won't even come back to Miami. They'll stay out there for 2 weeks.
Probably, yeah.
They will. Trust me.
Yeah,
they will. That's what they do.
I think
that's what they do in the National Football League when you go out or you come east. You got back-to-back games. You stay out here.
Sure.
We're having some issues. I guess it's Facebook with our comments. So I apologize if you're sending comments and they're not working for whatever reason. JC, before we let you go, have you watched any college basketball?
Yeah, I have. I watched that Portland tournament that they had, the Phil Knight, and I love listening to Bill Wall. I mean, he is like one of my. He's not one of my. He is my favorite. He'll go off on some tangent about something that's not got anything to do with the game. He is tremendous. He's the Conference of Champions, and he's really great to listen to. And I listened to him call that Portland basketball tournament, which was great. Florida did not do as well in that thing as we had hoped, but the Alabama-North Carolina game was unbelievable to watch. The Iowa State game with Connecticut was really good to watch. I didn't know UConn was that salty. They're pretty damn good. Oh. And they can really get after you.
I want to say UConn comes to the O'Connell Center in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, if you want to go watch a nasty team that gets after you defensively and has got no care in the world, man, that's a good basketball.
So Bill Walton makes me laugh, but he said – I forgot who's the play-by-play guy with him.
Yeah, it's
is that Roxy Bernstein or whatever his name is?
Yeah, somebody.
So anyway, Bill Walton, I can't talk like him. You're good at it, but he said he goes, whoever the player was, that John Cornell. This is the best I've ever seen him play.
Beautiful.
And the other guy goes, he's a freshman. You've never seen him play. Like I said, it's the best game I've ever seen him play.
Beautiful tempo, great imagination, and I mean, he is the best. The skill set these players have. I mean, I love Bill, and I hope they keep him on these games, man. He is so much more entertaining to listen to than some of these other clowns that try to tell you, about everything that's going on that doesn't really. Bill Walton will go off on stories back in the 70s when Marcus, and I just love the guy, man. So anyway, I do watch it to answer your question, and I think basketball is going to be very interesting this year. A lot of really, really good basketball teams. The conference, the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, could rival the Conference of Champions. I'm telling you right now, from top to bottom, this conference has got tremendous skill and great athleticism. And he's just unbelievable. And I think the SEC is going to be really fun to watch. Arkansas, Alabama, the Tennessee Volunteers. Nobody's talking about Rick Barnes' team. So, I mean, it's just great.
Oh, that's great. Chris from Cottondale says he agrees with JC. Bill Walton's very entertaining, especially when he's with Dave Pasch. Dave Pasch. Yeah. When Dave Pasch is with him, Dave Pasch gives it right back to him.
Yeah.
But I was dying when he said, and I just happened to be on the game, and he says, "That's the best I've ever seen this kid play." And the guy looks at him and goes, "You've never seen him play."
Oh God, yeah, man. I hope they leave him on there, but I actually am interested in. I'm more interested in basketball at this time of year than I think I've been in many years. I think the SEC is going to be tremendous.
All right, JC. Don't be helping out your collective to get Drake May. We need him here.
Yeah, and but don't you think North Carolina would be sitting there thinking, gee whiz, we get him. He's a freshman, and now he's going to leave us.
Well, it's crazy. His dad was a quarterback at North Carolina back in the day. He has 4 brothers, all won national championships. One was one of them played for the North Carolina basketball team a few years ago. Okay. I can't remember the other sports they played. One was on the backup on the Gator baseball team in 2007 national championship team. So we got an in, baby.
You do.
We got an in.
you have it in. And the other guy out there, if he doesn't want to swing down here, is the Wake Forest quarterback, Sam Hartman.
Sam Hartman. I think he'll be hot and heavy, but it's where he'll be a fourth, fifth round draft pick who will last in the NFL as a backup for a long time. Or, I mean, he will do that. But does he want to play 1 year football somewhere where he's got more than 3,000 students on campus?
Yeah. Okay. Well, should be interesting.
Well, we're going to ask Mike Morgan his thoughts of all this. And JC, get well and keep working on your Bill Walton imitation. It's great.
I'll get some for you next time. Thanks, QB. We'll see you Friday.
That's JC. Join us on the Titan MR Highline. Going to take a quick timeout. Come back. We'll be joined by ESPN's Mike Morgan. You're watching and listening. Pod up Matthews in the morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point's where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shops, International Diamond Center, Regal Cinemas, Dave & Buster's, Nike, Wawa, the Gadget Guys, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, now selling Head Beer, Coach American Lager, in draft and 16-ounce cans. We'll see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. We're going to have the Titan MR Hotline now. We're going to be joined by ESPN's Mike Morgan. Good morning, Mike. How you doing, buddy? Brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Plugging away. Now that the season's over, I want to get your thoughts. I don't know if you saw the Gator game live or if you had to watch a replay. Just your thoughts. I mean, it was a tremendous atmosphere. It was a heck of a ball game. And the semis found a way to win. A quarterback made some unbelievable plays to win it. What did you see in the game?
More of the same. I mean, it was like you said. It was actually entertaining. They're not two great teams, but you don't always need two great teams to have an entertaining game, and that's what I thought it was. So at least people were treated to a semblance of what Florida State used to look like, but just not as talented, not as many great players on the field, but back and forth, a lot of big plays. I think you and I talked about last week that the advantage going in for Florida State was they had a quarterback that was playing really well, and Florida had a quarterback that had been very inconsistent, and at times that showed up in that ball game. Florida's defense, you don't all of a sudden turn from mediocre to a really good defense in week 12. And so, again, the defense struggled to stop people from moving the football. I was proud of the way Florida fought. It was clear to me that, throughout all of this and throughout a really disheartening loss to Vanderbilt, there's been no quit that I can see. And if you can't get up for the Florida State game, there's something wrong with your ticker. But in this day and age, nothing surprises me with some players' motivation or lack thereof. So I was happy to see that. But Florida State's just playing better football right now, and they were able to close it out.
Yep, no question about it. The rankings came out yesterday. I mean, obviously everybody knew who the top four would be. There's a lot of stink about, Alabama being ahead of Tennessee, blah, blah, blah. Anything stand out to you last night?
Not particularly. I mean, I didn't get into the whole drama of Georgia being 1 or 2. I don't know if it really matters that much. Georgia's getting in the playoff, whether they beat LSU or not. And then in terms of number 4, my only problem, I'm in the minority on this. Let me just say that right off the bat. I watched Ohio State get completely blasted on their home field by Michigan. And Michigan did it without a Heisman Trophy candidate, Blake Corum, for most of that football game. So, they've kind of set it up that if there's an upset the next couple of days, that Ohio State could go through the back door. And I'm not convinced Ohio State is the best of the remaining teams. So I'm probably in the minority on that. That's fine. But Ohio State has not overly impressed me this year. The Big Ten has been a 2-team league that has been really shallow the rest of the way. Like, it's a down year in the conference. You just happen to have 2 very good teams. But one of those very good teams laid an egg on Saturday, again, on their home field, to lose to Michigan in back-to-back years, which hadn't been done in a long time. So, other than that, there was really not much. I know everybody's obsessed about Alabama, Tennessee. I get it. Like, it was head-to-head, but let's keep a couple of things in mind. The game was in Knoxville. The game was decided by a last-second field goal. Could you possibly in a million years imagine Alabama getting worked over at South Carolina the way Tennessee did? Like, we can't judge these teams, right? It would not happen. It would not happen. At Tennessee, and that was with a healthy Hendon Hooker for most of that game. Tennessee, for whatever reason, started to fizzle a little bit. And I think Alabama was actually playing some of its best football late. So that's a long way of saying I actually think Alabama is a better team than Tennessee. I actually think on a neutral field, Alabama, I think Alabama beats Tennessee. But if you try to tell that to people, you'll be shouted down and saying, Alabama this, Alabama that, Alabama bias. They lost 2 games. Tennessee won head. I get all that. I'm just telling you, if the resumes are comparable, which they are, then sometimes you have to make a judgment call. My judgment is Alabama is a better team than Tennessee right now, and my judgment is Alabama is a better team than Ohio State right now. So I could actually justify putting Alabama number 5, but I knew the committee would not do it.
Yeah. Mike, do you think, now it's not been stated, but we all think that once A&M, Texas and OU come to the league, we're going to do away with the East and West. Everybody's going to play. Top 2 teams go to Atlanta. That's what the Big 12 does.
I think that's a virtual. Yeah.
Yeah. My question is, do you think the Big Ten is going to have to do that? Because let's be honest, we'd much rather see Ohio State and Michigan play on a neutral site in a championship game than watch. Like, I like Jeff Brom, but Purdue can't keep up with Michigan. Now, they may upset them. Who knows? But don't you think the Big Ten is going to have to do that?
I think they're leaning that way. Here's the one problem. The problem is, unlike the SEC, which is a little more unpredictable, and even if you do have a rematch, in all likelihood, it'll be against 2 teams that hadn't played each other for a while, right? In the Big Ten, they're not going to change the spot on the schedule where Michigan and Ohio State play each other. And until some of those other programs catch up, you're going to be watching a Michigan-Ohio State rematch 7 days after it just took place, year after year after year. And I think the Big Ten office is a little bit nervous about that. So that is, to me, that's the only reason why. Yeah, it's the only reason why they might be reluctant to do it. I remember when Florida State and Miami entered the ACC, and the talk was, well, you got to have them in the same division, because if you don't, they're going to meet in the ACC championship game every year. Well, obviously, nobody could have predicted those 2 programs were going to, turn into semi dumpster fires from time to time, and so it's never been a factor. But in the Big Ten, Michigan and Ohio State don't appear to be going anywhere, and they don't appear to be in danger of being leapfrogged by, say, a Wisconsin or a Purdue or an Illinois or an Indiana. So when you look at it that way, you would be looking at Michigan, Ohio State playing twice in 7 days, virtually every year for a while, and I don't know if they really want that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't think about that. Chris asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, Mike, now that the season's over, do you think Dan Mullen will be a head coach somewhere next year?
It really depends on, is Dan comfortable with taking a lower level job? And he doesn't have to. He's got a cozy TV job. He's got money in the bank. And I don't think he wants to be the next head coach. Like I saw Trent Dilfer just took the UAB job. Does Dan Mullen want to go coach UAB? Does Dan Mullen want to go coach, Liberty now that job is going to come open? I don't know if he does. And I don't know if there's a lot of Power 5 schools that are lining up for Dan Mullen right now. At least I don't see it in this cycle. I mean, we've got a couple more openings left. Arizona State is still open.
I thought Arizona State gave the job to the OC at Oregon, right? Dillingham.
You're right. No, you're right. Yep, you're absolutely right. Colorado is still open with all the rumors of Dion, and of course USF. Like I can't see Dan Mullen coaching USF. I don't know. Dan's, as you know, your time covering him, Dan's a different dude. He marches to the beat of his own drummer, and he's not one of these guys that he has to coach in order to be happy in life. I don't see that. I could see Dan Mullen going the opposite route. Unless, again, it's a really, really good opportunity. And I don't think that really good opportunity is waiting for him in this cycle. Maybe next year, but not in this cycle.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. Because you said Dan's a different dude. Coaches always get back into coaching because they have nothing else to do, and that's all they know. Well, Dan's the same way, but he's living up in Reynolds Plantation. He has a beautiful home there, playing golf. His son's a little golfer. As you said, that he's got an easy gig that he's making a lot of money doing TV. That kind of keeps him in the game. But it all goes back to everybody says he's not a great recruiter. He may not want to have to deal with the nonsense that you have to do now, especially with NIL. So I don't see it happening, but it could. Hey, Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Mike, with the championship games this weekend, you think any upsets at all?
I'm not counting on many. The ones that are, I'll tell you this much. LSU is still scary to me. So that would definitely be an upset. I don't see an upset in the Pac-12, although Utah has already proven they can beat Southern Cal. Certainly don't see an upset in the Big Ten. The Big 12, I don't even know how big of an upset that would be. TCU trailed Kansas State by 18 the first go-around. So that wouldn't be shocking. But LSU, to me, again, they still could pose, if they're motivated, they could still pose a problem to Georgia, but I wouldn't pick it. If I was looking for an upset, it would probably be K-State. I love what their coach has done there. I love the fact that their team is playing hot. And again, when they faced them the first time, they had that game. I mean, they were up by 18 points and blew the lead.
Got a text on the Titan More text line from William. William says, Mike, can you give us your thoughts on the hire of Hugh Freeze at Auburn?
Predictable. I didn't think Lane was leaving. Just knowing what motivates Lane and knowing the difference between the Ole Miss culture and the Auburn culture. I always make this point, Shane, and I talk about it on my podcast, JC and Morgan, that for a lot of coaches, when everything else is rather apples to apples, the money, the whole compensation package, coaches nowadays, I think, look at what I call the path of least resistance. In other words, which job is not going to get you fired the quickest? And could anybody argue that Auburn is a more difficult job to not get fired from than Ole Miss? Like, you go 8-4 at Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin is a god. He's a rock star. You go 8-4 at Auburn, and you're on the hot seat. And so I never understood why people were convinced he wanted to deal with that. Yes, do you have more resources at Auburn? Yes, you do, but they've always had a lot of resources at Auburn. And the best they could do was what Gus Malzahn did, and Gus got fired for it. So I didn't buy into that. I thought Lane was going to stay, and he did. And then the next obvious choice was going to be Hugh Freeze. And look, I realize for some fans, you gotta squeeze your nose when you make that hire. And I'm sure they vetted him like crazy, and they kind of gave a no tolerance type speech to Hugh. But the Auburn faithful wants to beat Alabama, and Hugh Freeze beat Alabama twice at Ole Miss. If he could do that at Ole Miss, why couldn't you do it at Auburn? So I'm not surprised they went after him, no.
Did you see his comment in his press conference yesterday when he was talking about how he and his wife are good friends with Miss Terry and Nick Saban, and he kind of ended his like, I hope they're a little nervous today that he got hired. So I thought that was a cool little comment he threw in there. The transfer portal is going to heat up. I think it officially starts Monday. JC, who's an Alabama grad, he's had Alabama people tell him that they're going to go after Drake May. I've heard, the Gators are going to go after Drake May, Sam Hartman, you name it. It's going to be the same guy. All these schools are going to be going after the same guys. But isn't it crazy just to think that, let's just use Drake May, for example. North Carolina quarterback, dad played quarterback there. He had a lot of brothers that played there. That people are going to go after him, and this kid is probably going to get a lot of money to play quarterback next year. And it still may be in Chapel Hill. They may match it. But don't you think that's just it's they have to do something eventually about this NIL?
Well, there's no guardrails. I mean, that's clear. There's absolutely no guardrails. And, one of the things that Saban told us a couple of weeks ago when we sat down with him, and he just went off on the whole tangent on the situation, the climate of college football, and basically it's de facto free agency. Who are we kidding? I mean, that's what we're dealing with here. Because, even in the pros, when you get paid, you sign a contract. You don't just get to jump ship every 12 months. We're not even preparing these kids for real life in the NFL if and when they get there, because it doesn't work like this. You're not a free agent after one season in the NFL. I've said we need to do something. And it seems like the only way that gets done is from Congress. The NCAA has basically said, look, we've been the villain too long. We just got dunked on in court. We're out. You figure it out on your own. So you can no longer bark up that tree. You got to find somebody else to come in there and mediate and get this thing done. And I have no confidence that that's happening anytime soon, Shane. So I think this is the reality. And I mean, every coach that I talk to in a given year, to say that they hate the current setup would be an understatement. They despise it. It makes their job so much more difficult. It ain't about coaching ball anymore. It's about playing these games against people trying to steal your players, and then players putting themselves up for an auction. There's nothing good about it from that standpoint. I can give 100 reasons why I think NIL can be a good thing, but the bigger issue is just being able to transfer whenever you want, with whoever you want, and allowing teams to. We have bona fide free agency now in college football, and that's not the way it was supposed to be, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, and as you said, it's free agency with no contracts. You can move wherever you want. Mike, before we let you go, basketball is hot and heavy right now. Gators did not play well out in Portland. I think you have the Gators coming up soon. What have you? Who's the best team that you have seen so far?
Boy, I had Alabama a few days ago. Well, I guess it was a week and a half ago. Alabama's really good. I mean, I think this is Nate Oates' best team, and they've got one of the best freshmen in the country, in the Miller kid. I mean, he's 6'9". He is fluid. He's got a great looking shot. He's just he's a special kind of player. Remember that name, Brandon Miller. He is going to be a lottery pick, and he's going to be one of the best players this year in the SEC. I've had Kentucky. I think Kentucky is good, but they're still flawed. I haven't had Arkansas in person yet, but I know Arkansas is going to be very good, and Tennessee is going to be very good. Here's what I think is going to happen in the league this year as a whole, Shane. It's going to be very top-heavy. The teams in that upper 5 or 6 are going to be really, really good. And then you got a lot of teams with first-year coaches like Florida that are going to struggle. They don't have the same rosters. They're still learning a new coach, a new system, a new scheme. Florida's going through that. Georgia's going through that. South Carolina's going through that. Mississippi State, LSU. I had Missouri not long ago. They actually are playing really well. But we'll see when the schedule beefs up. I think it's going to be the haves and the have-nots. I don't think it's going to be your typical parity year in SEC basketball.
So Jack on the Titan Mar text line says, Mike, what are your upcoming games?
So I have Florida on Sunday, and then I have what's called the Holiday Hoops Giving the following week here in Atlanta, where you've got 3 games that are all really good. I think we've got the Memphis-Auburn game on ESPN. We've got LSU playing. We've got Clemson playing. It's a triple header, and I'm doing all 3. That'll be on the 10th, and I go to Miami for a tournament, and then I go to Myrtle Beach for the Myrtle Beach Bowl, which will likely be my final college football game of the year. So it'll be a fun kind of mixture of football and basketball in the month of December.
So when you said the tournament or whatever it is in Atlanta, 3 straight games back to back to back, you have to call them?
Yeah.
Have you ever done that?
Yeah. No, I've done 2 a number of times. And I think initially this was going to be 4, so we would have split it up with 2 different teams. But because it's 3, they just decided to keep us together. So no, I've never done a triple header. Now I've done a triple header in baseball for regionals, because if you have a rain out on one day, then you got to cram all those games in the next day. And a triple header in basketball is easier than back-to-back-to-back baseball games where you could be talking for about 11 hours straight. So we'll be fine. It'll be fun. It'll be a good challenge for me. Check that off the bucket list of things that I haven't done. But yeah, right. a triple header that day.
Yeah, last thing when we get you out of here, we just got another text on the Titan Mar text line. They want to know, Mike, are you going to be working with Mark Wise a lot?
Good question. I like working with Mark. I think so. We don't have our schedules past December, 22nd. I know I have a game at South Carolina then. So the January schedule, I'm not sure yet. Last year it was a lot of John Sunvold and Mark Wise. This year I was told it'd be a combination of multiple people, from Wise to Sonny to Fishback to some Jimmy Dykes, Pat Bradley I've got a couple games with. I like them all. But what I like about Mark is a former coach. Coaches see the game sometimes in a different light. So I enjoy working with him, and we've had good chemistry over the years.
Yeah, good stuff as always, buddy. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, that's Mike Morgan joining us on the Titan Mar Hotline, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Rose-Oger State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogerinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1770. I hope you enjoyed today's program, folks. Tell all your friends and family and neighbors to follow our programs on all the different outlets. Hopefully Facebook can get their stuff corrected and we can get to your comments. tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have Brent Beard talking a little more college football, get his thoughts. Also have Frank Frangie, the voice of the Jacksonville Jaguars, talk a little pro ball and get his thoughts on college as well. Have a great day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.